Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us on a very dreary, rainy, and temperature falling Friday here in Philadelphia. But to brighten our day, we're going to reignite everything that we're doing. And it's our pleasure today to introduce from All In Lifestyle, Steve Jackson and Ricardo Calderon. And they're going to talk about initiative that they are doing really in terms of the, especially with the pandemic, providing the empathy, the enthusiasm, the engagement, et cetera, that we all need to really continue to move forward during these, not just trying times, but all times. In the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be able to have a really nice presentation, an engaging presentation by these two gentlemen. Should you have questions, of course, you can put them in the chat box. I'll be happy to, mentor as we can with those questions. Make sure, as Javier said, please, that you mute your mic. Let's use that chat box for questions. And at this point, I am thrilled to introduce Steve Jackson and Ricardo Calderon. How handsome are these guys? Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Karen. Really appreciate it. Rick, if you don't mind, I'd love to jump in and you bring the sauce, brother. So again, as Karen said, my name is Steve Jackson. A little bit about me. I'm a passionate empathizer. I'm a passionate community organizer. And now I'm a passionate entrepreneur. And the story of our business for Ricardo and myself is I was working for a local nonprofit in public health and realized that there was more inside, there was more outside the box, and had the opportunity to build something with my good brother here. And at first it was Jackson Core. And what we built since then is All In. A little bit about Jackson Core is that it was the initial push, the initial thrust. It still is the parent company. And what's most important about that is it comes from a legacy of my family. Jackson is obviously my last name. But Core is, besides the potential pun, core is the Latin root of the word heart. And heart is at the core of everything that we do. We want to be authentic. We want to be empathetic. And we want to make sure that we're making connections with folks. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about our business. And then obviously got a chance to connect with my good brother, Rick. So.
Appreciate that, brother. Ricardo Calderon, buenas tardes. It's such a pleasure and honor. First and foremost, I want to thank the team, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for this opportunity. And shout out to you all as a team navigating these spaces, right? Technology is a thing. And the difficulties that come with that. So just salute to all of you for working hard to make sure that this could happen. So thank you again for that. To Steve's point, heart is at the core of all that we do. As storytellers, as producers, we are focused and mission driven to tell stories that empower communities, ignite relationships, inspire relationships, healthy skill sets. And at the root of all that is empathy. And I think we can all relate to, 2020 being a year that if we're not walking away trying to be a bit more empathetic, then we're missing a huge opportunity to grow. With that being said, before we dig into all that we would love to present today, we do want to honor that this has been a year. The past recent months have been very difficult for many people. So while this might not be the traditional form of presentation, we would love to take 2 minutes of your time. Invite everybody to close your eyes, and we're just gonna do some deep breathing very quickly. Again, mindfulness is something that we try to practice as a team with our partners, with all the contracts that we do. So if you all wouldn't mind, invite you to close your eyes. This will take 2 minutes. You don't have to, but we invite you we encourage you to take time for yourself at this moment. And just really be intentional with taking deep breaths. So if, at your own time, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you breathe, you don't need to follow my rhythm. You don't need to follow a specific count. Just really be intentional with taking deep inhales and very intentional exhales. As you do that, scan your body, find the parts in your body where there's tension, there's pain, something that's unresolved. Could be mentally, could be physically, could be emotionally. With each inhale, focus on taking that breath to that space. Again, whether that's an ache, pain, an emotion. And as you exhale, really focus on just letting all that go. Let your shoulders drop, roll your neck around if you need to, roll your shoulders if that helps. At your own time, we invite you to show yourself kindness, forgiveness, compassion, empathy, wherever you may need that. And now we want you to congratulate yourself. Congratulate yourself on completing that task. Love yourself for getting up this morning. Remember, take nice deep breaths. Exhale for the next 10, 15 seconds. Try to think about nothing. Forget about what you've done before this. Forget about what you have to do after this call, after this meeting, after this presentation, and just be. You can open your eyes. We appreciate you. Thank you for that. Again, it's very important to meet people where they're at. And Reignite is very much so a step in that direction, not just for us, but we think collectively as a community. Steve, brother, take it away.
Thank you, bro. If we can go on to the next, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So one thing that we can really take from that exercise is that more often than not, that peace, that ease, isn't always the sensation we have at work. A lot of times, whether it's through communication, teamwork, technology, the actual task and duty and labor tends to leave us in a space of stress. And so what we did here is we've really mapped out the story of what that kind of stress can lead to. And the solution to that problem, as we all are probably aware of, but you can definitely check the sources. COVID-19 has resulted in elevated mental health conditions for millions of working adults across the United States, right? And that's not news. That's our everyday. That's waking up, co-parenting, teaching our children, going to work remotely. So there's a lot of new stressors that we have in our lives. And despite the stress, despite those levels of stress, the obvious need, how our employers or our partners are trying to support us to the best of their abilities with tools like enrollment websites for benefits, printed materials, putting folks onto other resources, they don't tend to work that well. According to the Bureau of Labor, for those benefit utilizations, those rates for all those programs that are offered by employers, it's really around 5 to 5.5%, which really isn't getting the job done. And so what we're trying to do, what we've always done, this is our brand, this is what we do, is we tell stories that build bridges of empathy and bridges of action. And with a combination of heart and that story, we're able to leverage behavioral science to increase benefit enrollment, thereby increasing utilization rates for those benefits offered, and able to support employees, our partners, our coworkers, as we all walk into the winter of COVID and into 2021 and unforeseen events, because we're going to need that kind of support. And so that's what we're trying to do. The only question is, how are we doing it? So I'll turn it over to the good brother, Rick. If you wouldn't mind.
So if we could please go to the next slide. To Steve's point, the landscape of work, the professional landscape is changing right before our eyes. And how we relate to that, how we engage with that is changing. For many of us, working remotely is just now the new norm. Being away from our team, being away from the day-to-day, and creating those connections is very difficult. Now, before COVID, before this remote space, it was still difficult to really have employees engage, be aware, and actually access the services that are at their disposal to maximize their wellness. And we have no doubt there are folks on this call that are working around the clock to navigate how to support your teams, how to support your leadership, how to support your members, your constituents, your clients. It really is kind of at the forefront of everybody's brain. So with Reignite, what we're charged to do, what we're passionate to do, is use story as that tool to engage folks. So to Steve's point, authentic storytelling is really where we live. And scientifically, based off behavioral research, we know that folks are way more likely to take action on something when it's related to them by a peer, by a colleague, someone they can relate to. Really being able to connect through story, through experience, to cause action for themselves. So with our video-based tool, with our video-based model, what you will see, and you will see in a video demonstration after this shortly, is we start with an authentic story. We start with someone who we identify who can really be vulnerable and share as much as they're comfortable with sharing their experience with a specific topic. So let's say anxiety, which is what you will see later in the video. We will have someone kind of walk through that space for themselves. That will immediately be followed up with expertise. So it's one thing to be vulnerable. It's one thing to get somebody to be able to express what they're feeling. It's another thing to be able to provide that with some context, really to some informed expertise that can guide the person as they're navigating what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. And then the very next piece to that is being able to connect them to the resources and to the services that, again, are provided to them through your EAP, through the HR space, whether it's internal or external, but being able to provide that bridge. Again, many folks are discouraged because of the process to get there. Many folks are discouraged because you have to click on many links and research and find within the network who the best therapist is. And what we're trying to do is, again, to Steven's point, create an empathetic bridge that allows the employee, the person, to feel empowered to take that action. And based off of, receiving that authentic story, that expertise, and then direct access to those services and resources. If we can go to the next slide, please.
Rick,
so what you're about to see is a short demo. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, brother. I just wanted before we get into the demo, I apologize, brother. I just wanted to reiterate just how important what Rick just said in terms of, for employees and for lay folks, to be honest with you, to Rick's point, there are these EAPs, these benefits that I neglected to mention. So many benefits that are offered by employers, opportunities for wellness and for peace that typically aren't being utilized. And so again, to Rick's point, what we're doing is really building that bridge from employee to EAP and to those benefits. My apologies, brother. I just wanted to reiterate.
No, good. Appreciate that, brother.
Steven Ricardo, excuse me, for those who may not know what an EAP is, what is that?
Certainly.
100%.
Certainly. Rick, I can hop in, no doubt. So an EAP is an employee assistance program. So the majority of, and I don't have the statistics off the top of my head, but there's the gross majority of large companies in the United States employ EAPs to provide the benefits that their HR departments just don't provide. And so rather than going to Rick's point, rather than going to an internal team of HR folks, they contract an EAP to provide all sorts of benefits outside that employees are able to access. But to Rick's point, into the statistics that you saw earlier, utilization rates of those EAPs because of stigma, because of a lack of trust, because of a lack of awareness, people just aren't using. So what we're trying to do is to really a win-win-win to support employees, because they're going to, approaching the winter of COVID, we're all going to have larger mental, physical, and emotional needs. Employers to be able to get a bang for their buck because they're already paying for these EAPs themselves. And then for EAPs themselves to boost up their utilization rates so they're really meeting folks where they're at. So
great. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the clarifying question.
Now we can move into this sample video. Take a look at what we put together.
The first anxiety attack I actually had, I noticed that I was just overworked. I had come home from a conference because I couldn't do it anymore. I was having my first panic attack at the conference, and I had to excuse myself. I had to go home. And I was just kind of sitting there, and I noticed that every time I tried to reach for my phone, which is where I was doing a predominant amount of my work through social media, emails, texts, checking in with my boss at the time, all of that. More anxiety would come on, more tears would come on. And I just got fed up and I turned my phone off. And whenever I feel something coming on, I'll look at some quotes that really inspire me and focus on meditation and just positive thoughts, mindfulness. So those are some things that have really been helpful for me.
COVID-19, racial unrest, finances and job security, just trying to figure life out. If you're like most people, 2020 has probably sent you a complimentary helping of anxiety. In its simplest terms, anxiety is fear. It can look like a spiral of worries that plague you from day to day. It can also manifest physically, through sweating, shaking, heart racing, symptoms many may characterize as panic attacks. Now, oftentimes, many of us seek out skills to erase our anxiety. And while that's helpful in the short term, such activities may reinforce the idea that our anxiety is something we should not be experiencing and should try to reduce every time it bubbles up. Instead of reducing the anxious experience, activities such as meditation and staying in the present can assist you in sitting with your anxieties and showing yourself that anxiety can be tolerable. Later in this video, you will see links to mental health resources offered by your employer.
We hope you felt connected to this video as you continue on your healing journey. For additional support, please select the links for the resources best for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for playing. So I'd love to lead off, and Rick, if I missed anything, brother, by all means. Our intention, as we stated in the very beginning, is to provide a warm handoff. This is about unprecedented times at home and at work, a rising need for not just mental, not just physical, but emotional health. And how are we providing that for ourselves and our colleagues? I think we probably all have stories about something that's happened in the last 7 months at home, working remotely, that was just unforeseen and caused some emotional turmoil, and being able to build a bridge between those experiences and the support that we all need. That's our mission. That's always been our mission. And we're in a unique position to be able to provide that for companies large and small, so that we can, bring those benefits and win-win-win for folks
Steven
involved.
Ricardo, as we've gone into this, we're getting into the fall, and people have experienced, a great deal in the past 6 or 8 months, across the board on every level. What are some of the, 1 or 2 things that you're seeing a lot of, that you could talk to for a few minutes? And then on top of that, what is it that, that you folks, with the business model that you have and the outreach that you want to do, can do to affect a change and really be of service to not only employers, but employees and employees and employers?
Rick, you want me to take that, or you got it, brother?
Go for it. I think one thing that I will share is that in speaking with many behavioral health specialists, EAP representatives, HR folks, one of the difficult things is the amount of responsibility people have, right? Just it's such a compounded amount of responsibility. So to Steve's point earlier, not only are you still trying to be your professional and manage the tasks that you have based off your job description, you also are now a teacher. You are also now caring for folks. You're a caregiver. You're now also trying to navigate this new world of working remotely. So in terms of being able to support the employers and employees, one of the things we're also thinking about is in a world where it was already difficult for an HR representative or an HR department to be able to connect their employees to these services, now it's gotten a bit more difficult, right? There are many more barriers that exist to be able to do that. And again, that historically we know is around stigma and cultural bias, and there's a lot of things that add to that distrust. But at a time where people really need that, well, that's the hole that we're trying to fill. So folks have expressed to us that there has been a spike. Early on during the pandemic, there was reports around spikes on hotlines, just people wanting to seek out and receive information, try to understand what they were going through. As we kind of navigate these times, again, Steve and I have been thinking about, well, this is going to be our reality for some time. How are we meeting the times? How are we navigating and planning for 2021 when we're still working in this remote place? And let's be honest, even when we go back, hopefully, I hope we have a lot of beautiful, brilliant people working to get us back into shape. This is still an issue. Separate from COVID, employees trying to seek out the services is still a barrier. And again, we're working with a lot. We're working with a lot of stigma. We're working with a lot of trauma. We're working with a lot going on. But how do we have a condensed, bite-sized, empathetic tool that is that warm handoff. And this might sound like a lot to say, listen, it is okay. Like you're not alone. You are not the only person who's experiencing what you're experiencing. Give yourself permission to take charge and take an action on what it is that you're experiencing. And we hope our goal is that this tool, as we continue to develop it, provides that warm handoff for employees to feel empowered to take that action.
And I'd love to piggyback off of that and speak specifically to the fiscal, which is, I see two or three things. One is that companies large and small, have already spent money on EAPs that aren't being utilized. So there's a real downside to not taking advantage of what's already being offered. And then two, we understand, at least statistically, that because of these mental, physical, and emotional conditions that Rick and I have been talking about, burnout goes up, productivity goes down, profitability goes down. And ultimately it's about getting the best bang for your buck while also doing and being the kind of company that has sustainable working teams. So I think there's a real fiscal incentive. And then I think to Rick's point, this just makes sense for working teams going forward into 2021. Oh.
I have a question.
Cecilia, please.
So as a small business owner, like how would I work with you, or how if I know of another, business that needs this type of service, like what's the best way, what would be the next steps for me to share your information with them, or how does it all work?
Yeah. Brother, you want me to take it? You got it.
Go for it, brother. Yeah.
So the next step would be scheduling a time. So the best thing about Rick and myself is that we're very empathetic people. And so we want to be able to tailor this product to the employer. We understand that there are a lot of restraints, a lot of issues going on that small businesses need differently than large businesses. So specifically to you, would be talking to you about, the number of employees you have, our price tiers, where you would want this to be embedded and live, and how you want your communication team to be involved and enrolling your employees and so on and so forth. And then for your colleagues, it would be a similar conversation, but again, targeted towards them. If it wasn't absolutely clear throughout the presentation, we want authentic stories from these organizations. Like, we're really good.
Correct.
Part of our core competency is that we're able to have very vulnerable and courageous conversations with folks where they voluntarily share courageous stories about how they're taking on the challenges in their lives. And so those authentic stories are also going to be super relevant because they're coming from team members. They're people people who do the same work as you. And so we want to be able to talk to each organization about how we can do focus groups, get to know their folks, so we can really pull out those authentic stories, build it into our video tool, and then land it on a platform that's best for you all.
Absolutely. The only thing I want to add to that is the first phase of our engagement with anybody is enrollment. So we take the time, and it might not make business sense, but we take the time to really be informed with the community that we're enrolling ourselves with. So anxiety might not be a theme that your company, let's just say, may need to talk about. It might be time management. It might be help with finding babysitting. It could be a multitude of different things. So to Steve's point, we want to make sure that it actually meets the need and the time of your employee base and your entire organization.
Gentlemen, in the 3 or 4 minutes that we have left, certainly this has been really quite impactful, because what you're saying is identifying what everybody knows, and that is, but not everybody knows, but not everybody sort of faces their own reality in the mirror every morning and says, God, I need help with this or that or the other. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do it. I have an employee assistance program, but I'm embarrassed or I'm afraid or whatever. And I think that you've really given people something to think about in terms of, the way that you and your organization would bridge that for people. Okay. So how would, just to, kind of go a little further from what you mentioned to Cecilia, how would individuals and or organizations get in touch with you relative to this specifically, relative to what it is that you're doing and how you can help them? And be specific, because remember, this is going to be posted on the website as well. So we want to make sure that you're reaching out to everybody on the broadest possible terms. So take it away in the next minute or so.
Thank you. Rick, I got you, brother. So I think the most specific that we can be is send us an email. We want to talk to you. We want to hear the stories. We want to be a part of your community. Specifically, my email is Steven, Steven, at Jackson, Jackson -cor.com. Email me. You can certainly email Rick as well, and we'll get back in touch, and we'll have that same conversation we just had with Cecilia about your organization, so we can figure out what's best for you. Get in touch.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, well, gentlemen, I really want to take the time to say thank you so much, for taking the time and talking about this very, very serious matter. It's really, really critically important. We have some upcoming events. Next week we'll be doing our Resolve It in 30 relative to small business storefront protection. And then on the 29th of this month, we're going to have our final member orientation of the year, which will be exciting. And we'll be talking about not only what we've done, but where we're going in 2021. And then don't forget to just schedule some time for our November 16th to 19th Young Professional Network Development, Professional Development Conference. Details, gentlemen and ladies, are on our website. So at this point, I want to thank you all for participating. Steve and Ricardo, really, thank you so very much. Everybody have a safe weekend. And those who are listening, you can get in touch with us at the Chamber for referrals to Steve and Ricardo, or you can call Steve, email him directly as ever you would like, but we're here to help. So gentlemen, thank you for the work that you're doing from a community as well as employee and employer perspective. And everybody have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Thanks for joining us.